with incoming students because you might have seen that the quarter started yesterday, but instruction doesn't begin until tomorrow. So if you have classes today, don't freak out. You're not supposed to be in them. Instruction starts tomorrow. Lecture will begin tomorrow. If you haven't heard anything from your professors, some of them are a little slow moving at the beginning of the quarter. Some of them think they published their Canvas site but did not. You can email them. Sometimes you might not see the Canvas site. So I had an experience my freshman year. The Canvas site was published, but I hadn't pinned it to my dashboard. So I didn't see the reading for that week. He started talking about the reading. I was like, what's going on? You haven't published the Canvas site, and everyone else knew what he was talking about. So you can pin it to your dashboard. Let's see, how many students do we have? About 20, I believe. If you haven't already, please rename yourself to whatever your name was in the morning session. It just makes it easier for us to keep track of who is in attendance. Okay. Let's see, what time is it? 2:02. We'll give it a few more minutes. Unfortunately, we can't be on campus right now, but it's a really beautiful campus. So hopefully you'll get to see it sometime in the next couple of years. Okay. All right, well, it looks like we've slowed our entry down a little bit. So hi, everyone. My name is Emily, if you've forgotten. I am the CRD peer advisor. Welcome to the second half of fall orientation. Jana, one of our major advisors, is also present, and the two of us will be facilitating this session. And over the next hour and a half or so, you'll learn all about the community and regional development major and hear from some CRD faculty about what they teach, their research, what they specialize in within the field of community development. So I'll just give you a run through of who's here today. First, we'll hear from Dr. Ann Visser, who's the master advisor for the program this year. She also teaches CRD 162, People, Work, and Technology. Then we will hear from Dr. Martin Kenney, who will be teaching CRD 118, Technology and Society, as well as CRD 1, the Community for this school year. Then we will hear from Dr. Mark Cooper, who teaches CRD 141, Organization of Economic Space, and CRD 142, Rural Change in the Industrialized World, which will be taught in the summer, actually. Then we will hear from Dr. Jonathan London, who teaches CRD 149, Community Development Perspectives on Environmental Justice. He'll also talk a little bit about the Center for Regional Change. And finally, we'll hear from Dr. Noli Brazil, who teaches CRD 150, Quantitative Methods in Community Research, and CRD 156, Community Economic Development. So you'll be getting a little bit of a taste test of a few different aspects of community development and what you can do with our major. After all the faculty have presented, I will talk a little bit about my experience with the major as a student, and after that, we will hold a Q&A session. So throughout the presentations, feel free to type any questions that you have into the chat function. Jana will monitor the chat and compile the questions to be answered during that Q&A session. Jana, would you like to add anything? You're muted, Jana. You're still muted, Jana.
You're right. So I think you just introduced very well. I will be in the background checking your questions. We may not be able on the end answer all your questions, but we will be able. You can always email us and contact faculty advisor with additional questions. You can start.
So without further ado, Dr. Visser, if you'd like to get things started for us.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Visser and I am your program director for your first year here in UC Davis with our program and major. I apologize, while I do like to consider myself a rock star, I have an eye injury, so which is requiring me to wear shades today. I don't always require shades to be worn when I speak, but as of now, yes. Anyways, we're super excited to have you all here. Looks like a great crowd. A little bit about myself, and then I'll introduce the major. I am by training a policy scientist. I am very interested in economic questions, particularly economic inequality and social inequality. So I teach a course, I teach 162, which is being offered this year. People work in technology, and I also teach 172, which is social inequality, which is not being offered this year. I've been here now for 8 or 9 years, and this is always my favorite part of the year, is getting to meet all the new students, and I know that all of our faculty are excited that you're here today. Our program is really great and it's unique. Most of you picked this major for various reasons, and if we were in person, I would love to go around the room to hear why it is that you guys chose the Community and Regional Development major. As you may know, we are a very broadly defined social science major. All of your faculty come from a variety of disciplines, which is actually what makes us incredibly strong. What I mean by that is, you should hear the conversations we have when you put economists, social scientists, geographers, political scientists, and sociologists all in a room to talk about some of the biggest questions facing society. So you guys are in for an intellectual treat as our students, some amazing training, and I hope that your time with us is going to be very great. That said, I do also want to recognize that I don't think any of us are naive to note that this year will be quite difficult, and 2020 continues to deliver some interesting challenges, and we will all do our best to make it through this year. But we're really excited that you are here. We're excited to get to know you and know more about you as individuals and thinkers through our interactive forums such as this. And I really encourage you to take advantage of all the virtual opportunities we will have to connect until we're able to be together again on campus in the real true classroom. And so with that, I know there are a lot of other faculty who want to talk and will also provide a bit of perspectives on the program. So I will actually go ahead and turn it over to them, because I'm sure I'll be speaking with you in the Q&A session at the end of the program.
Thank you, Dr. Visser. Dr. Kenney, if you'd like to go next.
Hi. Let's see. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, good. I'm not looking at myself right now. So I'm Martin Kenney. I'm the oldest faculty, the oldest, maybe not the oldest, but the most senior. I've been at Davis the longest period of time in community and regional development since 1989. My study areas have been a variety of things, but basically it's on high technology, the impacts of technology on society. Most recently, I wrote a paper with one of our undergraduates on digital platforms, algorithm, and ethnic bias that was published in the Communications, the Association of Computing Machinery, which is the computer folks. And I've written extensively on Amazon, the impacts of Amazon on society, etc. So those are my areas of expertise. I teach a technology and society course, CRD 118. It starts tomorrow. Or does it start? Yes, it starts tomorrow. And there we look at various technologies, their impacts on society, impacts on politics, impacts on power, and other issues. I'm teaching CRD 1 for the first time, so that's on Thursday. So those of you who are in 1, I look forward to seeing you. It's really very unfortunate that we can't meet each other in person. I know all of the CRD faculty really enjoy the CRD students. It's our privilege to be able to teach you and share things in classroom and share our thinking. So, so those are sort of my sort of introduction. Again, thank you all for considering CRD. I really look forward to seeing you, hopefully in class, so that I can get to know you a little bit better. I try to remember all of your names. It's 70 students. It's a little bit difficult. Yeah, we all hope to see you in person, hopefully in the spring. It looks like winter is going remote also. So, and I look forward to seeing you in class if you, or on Zoom class if you're taking my classes this quarter. So thanks a lot again, and I'll turn it over to the next faculty member.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cooper, if you would like to go next, please.
Yeah, hi, I am Professor Cooper. I'm teaching 3 classes this year. So I'm teaching CRD 141, which is called Organization of Economic Space in winter. I'm teaching CRD 198, and 198 means it's a new class, and that's in the spring on climate change and agriculture. And then in the summer, I'm teaching CRD 142, Rural Change in the Industrialized World. I can tell you a little bit about all 3 of those classes. CRD 141 is focused on concept-based learning and connecting sort of big ideas about the economy and society. So questions like, what's the future of capitalism? Or does capitalism have a future? But also specific research on places and things, such as like, how does a banana get from Ecuador to Trader Joe's? And what does that tell us about the world we live in and about how that affects all of the people at each step of that move? So 141 is not the greatest title for a class, but I promise you that it's a more interesting class than the title would let on. If you're interested in understanding sort of the politics of modern economy and how the economy affects society, that's a good introductory class. The spring class is called Climate Change and Agriculture. As I said, that's a new class, and it's basically going to focus on what the relationship is between climate change and agriculture and food systems. So that includes both what agriculture does to create climate change, but also how agriculture might react or adapt to the climate change that we're going to see. You don't necessarily have to be interested in agriculture for that class, though. It'll be a good introduction to climate change, and there are lots of sort of social dimensions, such as how does climate change affect agricultural workers and questions such as that. And then the summer class, CRD 142, is called Rural Change in the Industrialized World. And that's a class about essentially what are the social and economic and political changes that we see in the rural world. And the industrialized world, we really mean the US, North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. And what drives rural change and what are the effects of rural change on the people that live there? But I'd reiterate that so there's sort of a theme here. You'll see 2 of my 3 classes are specifically about agriculture and the rural world. But you don't necessarily have to be specifically interested in those topics to get a lot out of these classes, because it's really about the connection of those things to everywhere else. The advising office will have syllabi for all of my classes soon. I'm not quite done yet. Summer went a little faster than I was expecting. But if you want a syllabus for any of those classes, you can contact the advising office or just email me. The other thing is, for both 141 and 198, so my winter and my spring classes, my plan is for them to be live lectures on Zooms. So you can interact with me and your classmates and ask questions during lecture, but they'll also be recorded. So if you ever have problems with internet access or internet connections, you won't miss anything later. I guess a little bit just briefly about my background. I'm only in my 3rd year at UC Davis. I'd never lived in California before. I'm originally from Kansas, but between Kansas and California, I lived in Wisconsin, New Zealand, where I currently am, Virginia, and Sweden. And my research now focuses on California as well as New Zealand, Australia, and the Pacific, but mostly about global issues. And I'm interested in talking to students and helping them figure out what part of the world they're interested in and might want to study, and also figuring out how you study sort of one piece at a time, but make sense of the broader whole. So if those are the sort of things that you're interested in, I encourage you to get in touch with me and talk to me anytime.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Dr. Brazil, if you'd like to go next, please.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to UC Davis. I'm a doctor or Professor Noli Brazil. I'm an assistant professor, and I've been at UC Davis for about 4 years now, 3 to 4 years. I forget the exact date. Time seems to fly by. I'll start out sort of with my background before talking about my classes that I teach. So I'm originally from Southern California. Grew up primarily in Los Angeles, but since college, I've lived in different parts of the country, and lived very briefly in the Philippines for a little while. My training is in demography and statistics, and my research focuses on understanding the causes and consequences of neighborhood inequality, primarily in the United States. And I also look at the causes and consequences of residential mobility. So in other words, why do people move, and what kinds of impacts does moving from one neighborhood to another have on individual well-being and other outcomes, health, economic, and social outcomes. In terms of the classes that I teach, this year I'll be teaching CRD 150 in the winter, and that's a class on quantitative methods in community research. And in that class exposes students to the skills and training for gathering, cleaning, and descriptively analyzing data to understand better the social, political, and economic and health characteristics of local communities. So in that class, you'll be gaining some skills in programming to gather your own data and use that data to try to basically measure the health and disadvantages and advantages of the different communities in the United States. You'll be also being exposed to working in GIS, so doing some descriptive mapping. So if you're interested in sort of gaining some skills in data collection and data analysis, a little bit of programming, and doing some cool mapping and some descriptive modeling, I'll be teaching CRD 150 in the winter this year. In the spring quarter, I'll be teaching CRD 156, which is a class on community economic development. And in that class, we learn about the theories and practice of the practice of community economic development, primarily here in the United States. And we look at the factors contributing to a local economy, aspects of the workforce, aspects of the business environment, looking at characteristics of housing and other factors that contribute to the health of a local economy. And when I say local, I mean at a more micro level, so neighborhoods, local communities within a city. Typically, that class has a very strong experiential learning component to the course, where students in groups of 3 to 4 create their own community economic development plans for an actual community-based organization, typically in Sacramento, serving a low-income community. But that may not happen, unfortunately, this year because of remote learning. But I'll try to sort of keep the theme of making it a very practical course by having some sort of project where you guys will be able to use both theory and data to try to develop plans at a local level to enhance the well-being of local communities. And those two classes, definitely the class in winter will likely be remote, and very similar to the approach that Dr. Cooper has. It'll be a combination of asynchronous or synchronous, or a combination of live / pre-recorded lectures, in addition to more sort of hands-on, smaller Zoom classrooms with the TA, trying to work through some of the data and methods and practices for each of the classes. And as the other professors have already noted throughout this discussion or this presentation, it's unfortunate, we have to teach and learn through this relatively new platform. But we're going to push forward, and I'm sure that all the professors, as well as all the students, will do their best to make this as best of a learning environment as possible. My piece of advice, if I could give some, is because we are all in a remote setting, I would encourage you to reach out to professors. If you want to learn more beyond what's in the classroom, go to their office hours, connect with professors and TAs, but also try to engage with your fellow students. Some classes have group exercises or group projects. I think that's a good opportunity to try to get out of this remote bubble and maybe get to know some of your students, and perhaps students not just within the CRD major, but in the broader campus community. So if you have any questions, or if you have any interest about regarding my research, please contact me or ask me during the Q&A. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Brazil. We are just moving right along here. So unfortunately, Dr. London isn't with us right now, but he did prepare a video for us to watch in the case of his absence. So I will share that with you guys right now. As soon, let's see here. Share screen. Okay. Please enter into the chat if you guys have any trouble hearing or seeing this.
Hello, everyone. I am Jonathan London. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Human Ecology and in the Community and Regional Development Program. Welcome to this orientation to CRD. You made a great choice. This is a wonderful major, and I'm so glad you've decided to explore it. I recognize that these are really unsettled and difficult times for many people, and I'm sorry we can't be here in person together, but we'll just do our best to be in communication and in community with each other. I hope that we can just take a couple minutes to look at some of the work that I do in terms of my teaching and research, and I'm just going to show you a couple slides to give you a sense of what that work is. And so my autobiography involves a lot of interconnections. So I have all of my 3 degrees have been in interdisciplinary programs in environmental studies, city and regional planning, environmental science policy and management. And I've always appreciated the way that those programs could connect across different kinds of issues and methodologies and topics and places. And also, all of those programs have been very applied. And I am very much of a believer that research should be useful to making the world a better place. And all of my training has focused on that kind of work. I've also interwoven experiences within academia and also outside academia. I've worked in the nonprofit sector, co-founded and co-directed an organization called Youth in Focus with my wife and another friend that trained young people to do community action research on issues of concern to them. Since coming back to UC Davis, or coming back to academia at UC Davis about 15 years ago, I have focused my work on environmental justice research, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and done that very much in a participatory, collaborative way with communities. And I also direct the Center for Regional Change that, again, I'll describe a little bit more about. So the teaching that I do focuses on environmental justice. So I have an undergraduate class, CRD 149, that I teach in the fall, and that looks at environmental justice problems, at environmental justice social movements, at policies, basically the struggles of low-income people and people of color to address the different kinds of environmental injustices that they experience and trying to make a more just and sustainable world. I teach also a graduate version of that, CRD 243. I also teach a course in community and youth development, typically in the springs, and that looks at the role of young people in social movements and how young people are really trying to change the world around them in a positive way. This coming spring, I'm scheduled to teach CRD 2, that's ethnicity in American communities, and that will be exciting as well. So in terms of the research, I have a number of different projects, all focused on environmental justice. So one is focused on the development of air quality plans to protect disadvantaged communities in the San Joaquin Valley from air pollution. And there's been a large effort to create these plans, and I'm interested in how well they're actually working and are they really benefiting these communities. I'm part of a larger project with a number of CRD faculty on revitalization in the Clear Lake region of Lake County, just a couple hours north and west of us. I have a new project working on environmental justice in Nepal, and I've worked in Nepal for about 30 years now. And then finally, I also am part of an environmental health science center at UC Davis, and I help connect scientists with community groups. So I just want to say a little bit about why environmental justice, since I've talked about environmental justice so much already. So first off, it focuses on justice. If you're concerned about issues of equity and fairness and justice, this is a great field for you. It's a wonderful opportunity to look across all of these different modes and perspectives on power and justice, whether that's race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, ability, age, and so on. It's very interdisciplinary. You can be an engineer, you can be a humanities scholar, you can be a policy analyst, and anything in between, and there's something in environmental justice for you. It is very applied. It links the social justice and social theory to practice and application. It offers many different kinds of career opportunities, whether that's in academia or in government or in the nonprofit realm. It connects you with new people and places. It's always so exciting for me to be able to meet people from very different backgrounds and very different kinds of community contexts. And at the same time, it connects you in with your home community. So I learned a lot about where I grew up in Massachusetts and the different kinds of EJ issues happening there that I never really thought of until I developed my understanding of environmental justice. It therefore really changes how you see the world. You come up with more critical questions. You come up with new ideas about how different kinds of issues and different kinds of places are connected with each other, how environmental justices are created. It's a new and developing field, so this is something that you can really come in and have an impact on. And then finally, it's really about survival and how we're going to live together in this small and hot and burning and crisis-ridden world. How can we live sustainably and equitably with each other? So I also, as I mentioned, run a research center called Center for Regional Change, and it sets its mission as creating research that's going to be useful for change makers as they try to build healthy, sustainable, equitable, prosperous regions in California and elsewhere. And the center works on a wide variety of issues: housing, land use, transportation, health, youth development, environmental justice, wide range of issues. The CRC has a fellows program called the Ted Bradshaw Engaged Student Scholars Program. It's named after Ted Bradshaw, who was a longtime faculty member in CRD, much beloved, and also was the person who came up with the whole idea for the CRC in the first place. So that program provides professional development opportunities, opportunities to connect your academic training with real world professional applications. You're able to connect to really diverse community networks, and it can be useful if you want to go on into academia, but also for if you want to do policy work or nonprofit work. So we really benefit from that as well. We really appreciate people's energy and enthusiasm, the skills you bring, the connections to your home community. So we welcome you to consider applying, and there's an email address there on the bottom that you can use to contact us. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And sorry, let me just stop sharing screen. And I hope that we'll be able to stay in touch, and that you've enjoyed what I've had to share, and look forward to collaborating with you. Thank you.
Hello, this is Jana. I just want to say that Professor London joined us. And if he would like to add something to his presentation, he has permission right now, Professor London.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I hope you like the video. I was thinking I was going to go on in a few minutes live, but hopefully that answered a lot of the questions. I'm not sure I have anything to add, but I'm happy to talk with people during the question and answer period as we go along. And unless you're doing questions now, in which case I'm happy to take a couple if that fits the schedule.
Emily, our peer advisor, will introduce herself right now. And after her introduction, we will do questions and answers. I will monitor the questions and read the questions because students don't have this permission to talk in this meeting. So Emily, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. Hello. Here's my face again. I'll just talk a little bit about my experience as a CRD student. You guys are actually in the select few that come to Davis as a CRD major, so congratulations, you're ahead of the curve. I switched into the CRD major, I think it was fall of my sophomore year. As a freshman, I came in as an English major, but I knew I didn't want to stay in there. So one day I just opened up the UC Davis Majors website, went through everything that sounded somewhat interesting, and kind of waited for something to call my name. And that's what CRD did. I was really interested in CRD because it just had a lot of the things I was looking for. I think in high school, I was kind of introduced to like all of the world's social issues, I guess. And I knew I wanted to be a part of trying to solve those issues and try to help people in a more direct way than some other majors might provide. And that's kind of what attracted me to CRD. I know a lot of my CRD peers kind of feel the same way. I would say that the number one thing that I like about CRD is that you really get to know your peers. It's a relatively small program. That's why there are so few of us who join Davis as a CRD major. But being a small program, like I said, you really get to know your peers. So you'll take CRD 1 and CRD 2, and you'll meet people, and then as you sort of get into your upper division coursework, you're going to start seeing a lot of the same faces pop up over and over again. And that's really nice. Personally, I feel like when I walk into a big lecture hall and I don't know anyone, it feels very isolating, and I feel like I'm kind of tackling the class alone. And CRD is kind of the opposite of that. You know, I have friends who I originally met in CRD 1, and we kind of just have been going through our upper division coursework together. So it's really nice to have people in your classes that you can kind of lean on for support, share concern over assignment with, study with. What's also really nice about CRD is that it's super interdisciplinary. So our students, while we're small in number, have a variety of interests. One of those popular interest is urban planning. We talk a lot about urban planning, but you'll meet people who are passionate about everything. You know, environmental justice, housing, income inequality, economic development. I once knew someone who was just like super psyched about waste management, which isn't my thing, but they were really excited about it and they were really passionate about it. So it's cool to kind of be able to talk to your peers and hear about certain parts of community development that maybe you haven't been introduced to yet. So that's really great and something that I really appreciate about the program. One thing that I also really like is that sort of the structure of the classes kind of challenge you in really great ways. So one thing about CRD is that it's pretty heavy in the group work. Not all classes will have you do group work, but many of them. And when I first joined, I was like, there's no way. Like one of the first upper division courses I took was CRD 152. And in that class, taught by Professor Brinkley, it's a quarter-long group project at the end of which you give a 20-minute presentation to the entire class. And that was something that was really intimidating for me. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna make it through the next 2.5 months. There's no way. But then I did it, and not only did I pass, I got a good grade, and I made some friends. And now the next time I had a group project, I was like, oh, I've done this before. I was intimidated before, and now I know I can do it. And that's comes up a lot for me, at least. The same thing with like a 15-page term paper. Never thought I'd be able to do it. And then I did it. And the next time I have one or a shorter one, I know like, hey, I've done this before. I can do it, even though it sounds really intimidating. And again, it's kind of like your peers that help you get through those sorts of things because they're going through it too. Maybe they already went through it. Maybe they're going through it at the same time, but you can lean on them for support and to share your frustrations, which is really nice. With CRD, again, I love the program so much. There's a reason why I became a peer advisor, so you're just gonna hear me gush for a few minutes. But another thing that I really love is that the professors really encourage active student participation. I would say even more so than other programs. Which again sounds intimidating, but when you already know half the class, the comfort level is kind of there where you might feel comfortable sharing your opinion in a class of 60 or 70 people. I think it's really nice to have, of course, the professors are experts in their field and they've been doing this for years, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to know your thoughts and your opinions on things. CRD is very current, it's very relevant. Of course, there's a historical aspect to it that we study to kind of understand why things are the way they are. But I don't think I've had a class where we don't talk about something that's going on in the news. I've had multiple professors start every class with saying like, what did you guys hear or see or read that relates to what we're talking about today? Did you guys see that article about whatever? And you might spend the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of class just talking about things that are going on right now that are relevant to your coursework. So that's really encouraging because it's one thing to want to share your opinion, but it's another thing to know that people want to hear your opinion, I guess. So that's also really amazing and something that I love. Two things that are really emphasized in CRD is the sort of marriage of theory and application and the interdisciplinary nature of it. So I'll start with theory and application. Like I said, we, while everything feels current, we do read books and study theory and learn about guys that died 200 years ago in some classes. And that's that's the sort of theoretical framework part of things, but something that a lot of your professors will stress is the application. So it's one thing to understand something in the abstract, conceptually, but it's an entirely different thing to understand how that age-old concept applies to, again, things that are happening right now. So that's really stressed. So your professors will ask you like, okay, well, this guy said this great thing, but how does that apply to this specific community that's struggling with this aspect of their economy or this social service or something like that? There's a reason why CRD requires an internship. That's a part of the major that a lot of students feel intimidated by, but it's so you get that hands-on experience, what it's like working in sort of the field of community development, because it's not just theory. The things that you'll go on to study and go on to do hopefully affect real people. And it's really important to understand how these sort of maybe highbrow concepts that you learned at UC Davis apply to, you know, everyday people just trying to make it through and live their lives. Something that still kind of blows my mind about community development is how like interconnected everything is. I've walked out of multiple classes and been like, what do you mean? Kind of, it can be kind of overwhelming seeing how, you know, you can't talk about this aspect of community development without also talking about this, you know, you can't talk about income equality without talking about race. I mean, in the US, you can't really talk about anything without talking about race. That's why we have CRD2. It's why it's an introductory course. It's why it's a required course. But, you know, you'll be surprised how environmental justice relates to housing, relates to income inequality, and how everything is sort of connected in this giant spider web, and how if you touch this end, you'll have effects all the way over here, you know? So that's something that I think you'll encounter often. It can be overwhelming, but that's okay. Your understanding of community development will evolve. As a sophomore, when I first changed majors, if someone asked me like, oh, what's CRD, which is going to come up a lot because it's a small program, a lot of people haven't heard of it, and I wouldn't really know how to answer, I'd be like, it's all of these things. And it's still kind of all of these things, but your understanding of community development and what it is will evolve as you learn, which is really great because it keeps things fresh and keeps it current. Gosh, that's everything I had on my student talking points list. So
Emily,
if you'd
thank
like
you
to
very
hear
much.
about anything else, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to talk about it with you.
Emily, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is a great overview about student experience and community and regional development. We have some questions over here. I will read them out loud, and then we'll see who would like to answer those questions. One of the first question, the student is actually not from community and regional development. He is from environmental science and management, and they still didn't start it, but they're asking how I can change the major. And the answer is yes, please contact your advising office. We are having our emails and contact phone on our advising website. Also, every Thursday morning from 9 to 12, we have Zoom drop-ins, so you can come to our Zoom hours, and we will tell you how you can change the major. Just to let you know, your very first quarter, you cannot change the major, but after your fall 2020 grade are posted, you could be eligible to change the major if you meet prerequisites. So the best advice is please call our advising office, schedule advising appointment, and we will make a study plan for you. So this is your starting point. I will just take new questions. A student asked, do many students from our major go to pursue MPA or law career? And what are these things that students actually do with CRD major? Who would like to answer between the faculty? I think Professor Kenney had a lot of answers on this.
So I can answer sort of briefly. One way to find out, of course, is to go to our LinkedIn site, and you can see a number of students have gone on for JD degrees. Juan Carlos Sanchez got a degree from Bolt, but there's a number of JD. As Jonathan said, many go on city and regional planning master's degrees. Some have gone on for PhDs in planning. So I think the thing about the CRD program that I would urge you is to to use your internships, because we have an internship requirement, to kind of find out what would you like to do. If you know what you'd like to do, great, then shape your program, because you have choices in your classes, shape it to the direction that you'd want to go. If you want to go into the medical profession, then, you know, take courses that are more in the medical area that would prepare you for that. Environmental sciences, well, you take ESP courses. If you want a business, you could take courses in the managerial econ major. So I think the thing about CRD that I think we as the faculty love is that you students are each individuals. You're diverse in many different ways, interests, ethnicities, whatever vector of diversity you're interested in, and you know, use that, use the major to get you where you want to go. Go take the summer abroad. There's the UC, the University of California District of Washington program, the DC program, where students go to DC, and a number of our students have, you know, gone to DC and ended up staying in DC after they graduated, going back. In that program, you get internships in various federal agencies. We've had students in the Obama White House. We've had one of the students who in the 2020 election, Emily Isaac, was the director for, I think it was community outreach for the National Sanders campaign. So, you know, so there are just so many ways that you can use this degree, but you've got to be a self-starter. Take this degree and build something while you're at Davis, so that when you leave, you're a unique individual who can hopefully use your internships, et cetera, to move right into a job or to go on for a master's program, because we have a lot of students doing that. So they're just, I mean, this is a program that rewards, I think, self-starters and values diversity in all of its various fashions, and lets you build on your particularity, who you are as an individual. So again, the LinkedIn site, if you ask, I curate the LinkedIn site. If you ask me to get on the LinkedIn site, I'll of course accept you, and then you can see what the students of the past have done, and we've had, you know, very successful students in politics. What's her name is on the city council? Oh God, Katie Valenzuela. She's on the Sacramento City Council. Karina Talamantes is on the Sacramento Board of Education. And Katie is only about 7 or 8 years out. Jonathan probably remembers her a little exactly what year she was here, but it's about 8 years ago. So, you know, we have a lot of students going into politics in different ways. But it's very diverse: planning, politics, JD, business. We have Bryce Honorable. She's a HR at a big Silicon Valley firm. She's not the head of HR, but she's relatively high up in the HR hierarchy there. So that's another direction, is the corporate direction, if that's what you're interested in. You know, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Professor Kenney. We have other questions from our student. They're asking, are there any active student clubs that touch on subjects relevant to CRD major that you can recommend? I would like to say that at the moment we don't have CRD club. We had last year, but due to COVID-19, activity is not really right now recognized. Though we had in the past CRD socials, where we put together our faculty and new student, prospective CRD students and seniors, so they can learn from their older peers. And Emily, is anything else that you would like to add about student clubs?
I know that for this year, HDE has, which you guys all saw this morning, our other major in the human ecology department, they're still having like remote meetings, game night sorts of activities, and they have kindly invited CRD to join them. So for clubs specifically, you can look out for some HDE/CRD activities. And I believe a few of the professors also typed some answers to that into the chat, so you can go back and see that as well.
I would like to answer a question about CRD socials. That was usually in the backyard of our hard hall. Unfortunately, we are not now there. It's really event with the food and drink and socializing. We still did not plan any of CRD socials. That is something that is coming up. And definitely we will let know our CRD students once we are ready. It will be a Zoom platform because we are not coming by the end of the year back to the campus, hopefully soon. Right now, we don't have any questions. I would like to ask if any of our faculty would like to add something about career opportunities. I know Professor Kenney said really a lot. Is that something maybe about research opportunities at community and regional development that somebody would like to share?
I'd say one thing about career opportunities. This is, it kind of goes with whatever major it is, but I think it has a special special resonance with CRD, which is that you know, some of the most valuable learning experiences you'll have in college will be with your classmates, and some of your best career networking opportunities after college will be with those classmates. And CRD students are so great. There's such a density of really ambitious and talented and passionate and dedicated people that you know, you'll be, you know, getting this kind of rich contact, admittedly now a little more difficult online, but nonetheless. So that's both an encouragement to consider the major because of the kinds of people that you'll interact with. And it's also an encouragement to just be as interactive as you can, again, given the realities that we're facing. Because, and I think, Emily, you talked about this a bit too, in that, you know, as professors, we know a lot. We've been teaching this stuff for a long time. But there's also a lot of knowledge that you as students have about issues, you know, that you faced, about your hometowns and so on. So that's really valuable. And just getting to know people, networking with them, staying in touch with them over the course of the time and afterwards through the LinkedIn and other kinds of sites. That's such a valuable and I think kind of underappreciated asset that you can get. So just hope that you'll take best advantage of that. I will say also with the Center for Regional Change with our Ted Bradshaw scholars that I talked about in the video, that is another chance to do professional networking with faculty and Center for Regional Change staff and a whole range of community partners. And those engaged scholars fellowships are internships, so those can serve as some or all of your internship credits if that's of interest. And we actively help connect people with, you know, with organizations and opportunities that fit their academic and their professional interests. So please be in touch with us around that.
Thank you so much, Professor London. Would you like to share something, Emily, about your experience with study abroad? We do know there is not going on right now, but in future we hope will be back. Would you like to share your experience with study abroad?
Sure. Before we get to that, though, we do have a question for Professor London. Jerry asked if you could talk more about the Scholar program. It's the first time they're hearing of it.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit. You can get more information on the Center for Regional Change website, which is just regionalchange.ucdavis.edu. So it's a 2-quarter with the possibility to extend into the summer, starting so winter, spring, and potential summer. The applications will be out shortly, and we'll make sure those get distributed through the CRD list. We typically have a lot of the fellows are a lot of the scholars are CRD students, so it's a great match. But basically, you apply, put down what your interests are, and we also have faculty, our professional staff, and community partners put in proposals for scholars that they would like to work with if they have a formalized internship opportunity, and then we match them up as best we can with student interest and host interest and opportunity. So you do get internship credit. There's a small stipend, and we found students, some cases turn that into like honors theses work. A lot of them have used that for professional development kinds of opportunities, connecting them with future job sites or providing skills that they can use in other professional settings. So I could say more, but that's kind of the outlines of the program.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my study abroad experience. Hopefully that will, that kind of opportunity will be available to you guys before you graduate. So I studied housing and social policy in Barcelona, Spain, for the month of July last year, so 2019. It's one of the programs that is like a strictly CRD study abroad program, strictly meaning it's offered by CRD and not by another department. It was like a really amazing experience. It's something that I always wanted to do, but didn't really know if I had the bravery for, because it is like an entire month in another country, away from your family. So that was scary for me, but ultimately a really rewarding experience that I really enjoyed and loved. I actually took it the summer after I took CRD 171, which is CRD's housing class, with the same professor, actually, Dr. Robert Wiener. That was, like I said, a really amazing experience. Let's see, what do I have to say about it? I'm like trying to remember back. International travel just seems so far away. If you're interested in it, and if you're interested in it, I would say go for it. If you have any doubts, they'll disappear as soon as you land. I promise. There are financial aid opportunities that can help you out with that, because I know that it is very expensive for a lot of students. I would say absolutely go for it. I was nervous about being in a country whose first language wasn't English. It wasn't bad at all, not at all. A lot of other countries know a little English anyway. But one thing I will say is that I was nervous like the night before I left. Like I was so nervous. I was like, have I made a huge mistake? This is so much money. I'm going to be gone for so long. And it was kind of like, as soon as I landed in Barcelona and like met all my classmates, all of that disappeared. And I was just excited to learn. I was excited to experience another culture. I was excited to hear all of these guest speakers who are experts in housing in Spain. It was a really great experience. I feel like it kind of broadened my horizons and gave me a sort of different perspective on community development, on international community development, on housing. If you're interested in studying abroad, what the process was like, because there is an administrative process, I'd be happy to talk with you about it. You can, if you look up like UC Davis Study Abroad, there's a whole website where you can explore programs and get the most up-to-date information involving COVID-19 and stuff like that. So, okay.
I'm just calling if anybody else has a question. We don't have at the moment any more questions. Any last minute for the ask a chance to ask our faculty questions? And if not, we can end this session. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much, Emily, for doing such a great job talking about student experience. And thank you all our faculty for being present and talking about their area of expertise. Looks like Professor London would like to say something.
No, that was just a clapping hands.
Just clapping. Okay, so far we don't have any questions and we will end our session. I also would like to thank you, our new CRD students, transfer and freshmen, for coming to this new student orientation. And thank you for choosing community and regional development. It's a great program. We know you will enjoy it. Thank you.